So what if I told you there was a new trading card game out there that had some serious design chops, basically something unique, but still felt different to the modern card games that you see today? Well, as you know, modern card games like Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, and of course Magic the Gathering have been around for about the 90s, 92, 93, and 99 for Pokemon. And those games have had a distinct player following for quite some time. Magic Gathering has probably been the king of games for a long time. It has stand the test of time, and it has basically defeated every card game that I have ever seen come to market. There were, with a few exceptions, sneaking in like Flesh and Blood. This game here is Neuroscape. Neuroscape is a two-player game, head-to-head, or you can play four players, similar to Magic the Gathering's Commander style of play, in which players are going to be drawing from either their RAM deck or their Neuroscape deck, playing out cards, and feels very similar to Magic the Gathering. Now, the uniqueness about this game, however, is instead of just drawing cards from a deck and hoping you get lands or energy, instead you actually have your land deck, your RAM, in a separate deck. These are all basic RAM or land cards that you can choose to draw at the beginning of the game. It's a unique design concept that plays more similar to Hearthstone, but different as well. It's kind of a mix between Magic and Hearthstone in terms of, instead of just getting a sequence of currency that you can use from turn to turn, from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 as the turns progress, or hoping to get the sequence of currency like Magic or Pokemon, in this one you have the option to choose. In this game, you'll start with 5 cards from your deck here, and then you're going to set aside a number of cards and redraw back to 5, kind of like your mulligan, shuffling the rest into your deck, and begin. On your turn, you'll have the option to choose. Do you draw cards from your deck, or do you play out RAM, or lands, or currency from your RAM deck so that you can then use the cards in your hand? And you'll have the option every turn to kind of decide what to do. Additionally, the other cool thing about the Neuroscape card game is you're going to be utilizing your RAM to play out spells, cards that are not creatures. However, if you want to utilize your creatures, the creatures that have power and toughness, you'll have to basically attach your cards to those creatures and place them down. Thusly, you'll lose out on RAM, making you have to get more RAM to play more creatures. As opposed to just utilizing it and gaining it back, the RAM that you place on creatures sticks throughout the game. So definitely a more unique, nuanced style game. It features a lot of the same functionality as Magic the Gathering, and with little tidbits of Hearthstone and Pokemon / Yu-Gi-Oh all kind of mixed in, but it's definitely different. However, this game still has to, in order to break out, like Flesh and Blood, and MetaZoo, which I think is still a game, basically it has to push through those and secure itself some footing. Is this game able to do so? We'll talk about it here in my review. But first, how to play and set up. And then, of course, we'll discuss it. Want to know what you guys think as well. So what you're going to get when you get Neuroscape, or at least what I have here, is a 2-player starter set here. It's going to have one set of cards from a specific faction, and then another set, similar to Magic the Gathering's plains, islands, mountains, forests, and swamps, or Pokemon's fire and ice, or etc., or creature types. It kind of mixes the two, and it has a unique type, whether it be like assassins or cybernetics. And additionally, each of those decks is going to have 2 main things. It's going to have your cybernetic cards, like your creatures and your spells, your equipment, all that kind of stuff, your permanent things, or things that instantly go to the graveyard in one deck. And in the other deck, you're going to have your RAM. This is your currency, your energy, your lands, your resources that you can play cards. And one last important thing is your Mainframe card. This is kind of like your commander for Magic the Gathering. It is a card that stays in play on your Mainframe for Neuroscape, and when you meet its criteria, you will gain the benefit. And this one here is basically whenever you have a certain number of characters of a certain type, you're going to give them boosts. You'll place your Mainframe card on the Mainframe, which will have 2 or 3 adjacent spaces, the top, left, and right. You're also then going to take your RAM deck, and you'll need to shuffle it, or at least what I have here. These are basic RAM. You might get new, unique types of RAM later in the game, but right now it's all just basic, and you'll place it in your deck over here. You start with 25. And then your deck of cybernetic cards. You'll start with, I believe, 60, but you can have more if you'd like. You're going to shuffle these guys up here, and then you're going to place it on your cyber deck. If you have any additional tokens or like Trojans, these things that you can utilize, you're going to place them aside. So tokens, whether it be counters or tokens, you'll set them aside for use later if your deck needs them. Then you're going to go ahead and draw 5 cards from your deck. Once you've drawn 5 cards from your deck, you'll choose and separate the cards you don't want. I'll take these 2 and I'll set them aside and shuffle them back into the deck. And then from there, after I've shuffled this deck here, I will then once again draw back up till I have a hand of 5. Once you have a hand of 5 cards, you're ready to begin the game. And that's the setup. You're going to have a die, which you can place wherever you want. I have them in some die rollers over here. And then you can have a turn overview, as well as card anatomy cards to focus on the game as you play for your first 1 or 2 times, so you get the idea of how to play the game Neuroscape. After that, you're ready to go. It's that simple. You'll have a few other different locations like the environment, purge, and recycle bin, as well as your RAM bank, which you'll use throughout the game. But yeah, draw 5, discard the ones you don't want, shuffle back into your deck, and then draw up to 5 again. Make sure that you have your mainframe out and your tokens and counters to the side, and you're ready to go. So the thing with games like Neuroscape is the audience for a game like Neuroscape is going to be other card game players who have played Magic the Gathering like me, or Pokemon, or Yu-Gi-Oh! Knowledgeable people. Typically the audience is not going to be some casual gamer. They're going to have an idea conceptually of how TCGs work. So knowing this, I'm going to cover the very basics of the game and how the turn overview works. And what happens is you're going to start with your initialize step. You will then begin by refreshing your cards. So any of the RAM that you have on the field that is turned to the right, tapped in Magic or exhausted in other games, will become unexhausted, untapped, and placed face forward so that you can use them once again. And the same is said for any creatures that you might have on the field, as well as any other permanents that revolve around tapping them. After you've done that, then you're going to go to the draw step. In your draw step for Neuroscape, this is the big unique difference in the game compared to games like Magic the Gathering, in which case instead of just drawing from one deck, you now have 2 options. You can draw from your RAM deck and place that RAM on the field, like this, or you can draw from your main deck and put that card into your hand, so that you can gain more cards that you can use as long as you have the RAM available to you. You can do this twice in any combination. Take 2 RAM and place them on the field, take 2 cards, or 1 of each, and the choice is up to you. But on the first turn of the game, that player can only do 1 of these actions. In this case, placing out just 1 RAM to get things started, or drawing 1 card. Typically, you're probably going to want to play a RAM out. And then for every other turn after that, it's playing out 2 or drawing 2 or any combination thereof. Then you're going to be able to force quit. Force quitting is basically if you have a character on the field and you do not want that character for one reason or another, maybe it has a bomb on it or a negative enchantment or equipment of some type, you can basically place that guy into the recycle bin and you'll gain the RAM that you placed on him back to your field face up, standing straight up so that you can utilize it, right? It's not considered to be run in this case. That's what tapping and or exhausting a card is called. It's called running your RAM. In this case, it would be non-running. And so that's the last thing you can do before you move on to your next step, which is the deploy phase. The deploy phase is where you're going to be able to use your RAM that you have to play things. Like, for instance, if I wanted to play a Scrapper, and this is the most unique thing about the deployment phase, where normally in other games you just turn your mana to the side, turn your energy or use your energy. You're going to be placing out a creature here and placing RAM. So similar to Pokemon, how you place out your active Pokemon, in this case you place out your active character and then you take the number of RAM on the top left-hand corner of the card and attach it underneath that character. So now you have a card that you can utilize. Additionally, every creature in the game has haste. Haste, or blitz, is basically that they can do their action and they can attack on the turn they come in. In most games, once you play something, you have to wait a turn before you can utilize it. They're kind of like tired. In this game, nobody's tired. Everybody is constantly running, and so everybody is able to do what they want to do with the first turn they come into play. Additionally, there are other things like you can play, for instance, a Riot Blade. This is an equipment, and you'll be able to equip your cards to the top, bottom, left, and right of characters, provided they match. There's a 1, 2, 3 prong approach, and if you have at least the value of your character's prongs, you can turn your ram to the side and equip your characters, which will give you a unique ability with that character, or a bonus of some sort. Maybe it's going to be power or toughness, their strength, or their defense. There are other things other than characters and equipment that you can play, like environments, where you can place them out onto the main game board. This is like Pokemon's Arena, or other type of terrain effects for Yu-Gi-Oh! Where you only get one of them and both players can utilize them. It's placed in the middle of both game mats. And now it says all characters gain stamina, so whenever they attack, they don't actually have to turn to the side, they don't have to run. So it's kind of like everybody gets vigilance in this game. And there are other things like programs where you can attach these certain things to your opponent's mainframe or to your own. Some equipment you can attach to your opponent's creatures, etc., etc. These are all basically things you can play by turning your mana to the side, but only creatures are the unique ones where you actually have to take your ram, place it underneath to play your creature out onto the field. And you just do this during the deployment phase. As much as you have, as much as you're able to do, you check the top left-hand side of your cards, and then you play those cards outright, and then you're done. You move on to the net check. How the net check works. So the net check is basically like an upkeep phase in Magic the Gathering. It is a phase in which if there's anything that says net check, you do it. Typically it'll say something like, during your net check, you take 2 damage, or you gain 2 health, etc., etc. And so you'll just do those things. Net check is the stage where you do the things based on the word net check. Then you move on to combat. And combat is literally Magic the Gathering. Basically, you turn your creatures to the side and swing into your opponent's HP. Your opponent will then choose to block with their creatures on yours, or not block and simply just take the damage. And damage is reflected by attack, whereas defense is the amount of health your creatures have. Creatures take too much attack to their defense, their creatures will die. It's literally Magic the Gathering in pretty much every way, shape, or form as far as attacking goes. And between each of the phases of attack, choosing to attack, choosing to block, taking the damage, there's a phase in which you can play instant abilities of creatures and of certain types of programs in your hand. They'll tell you if you can do them. They'll have a little like 3-prong arrow that'll allow you to play those cards. And finally, you will then, after you deal the damage, you will reset. You'll clear any damage from any of your characters, just like Magic the Gathering, meaning that damage does not stick like in Hearthstone or in Pokemon. Those damage will stick from round to round. And this, any damage that you deal is then once again removed and cleared from the board, and your turn will end. The last main aspect of this game that's kind of unique is that each player has 2 health totals. They have a red and a blue. You both start with 20 HP for both of them, and if your opponent can get either one of them to 0, they will win, and the same is said for you. So you basically have 2 separate life totals, and depending on the deck that you're playing or the characters that you're utilizing will determine which life pool those characters are going for. And you can set your deck up however you want in a customized version, but in these starter decks, they're only going to do a specific color damage. Like, for instance, these guys here are my scrappers and stuff, my cybernetic characters. They're only going to do red damage, whereas this other deck here is going to do blue damage. And these guys are like the fire starters, the hackers. And that's basically the game. That is how you play Neuroscape. It is a game where you're basically trying to get your opponent's health to 0. They have 2 separate health pools, and you're able to draw from 2 separate decks, as well as when you play creatures out, you'll be placing RAM underneath them as opposed to just turning everything sideways. But in every other regard, it plays similar to Magic. So yes, this game has a feeling of Magic, it has a feeling of Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! Where you're basically sending out creatures, attaching RAM to them so that they can store them. When those creatures die, you will get your RAM back. They'll come into play tapped, unless you sack the creatures before your phase where you play stuff, in which you'll get them untapped. And you've also got that singular location that works for both players. It's like an environment card that everybody gets value from, but one player is going to play it and it's going to help their deck more. The kind of commander card is more of like, it's an enchantment that stays in play on your side of the field and your opponent's, and you get value based on what it says. And so you're going to be building your deck around this specific mainframe card. This one here wants me to have lots of cybernetic characters, so primarily that's what my deck is going to be. So this is the card you always start off with when you're building your deck. I'm expecting there to be additional types of RAM. This even shows basic RAM on here. It has a number count and a common symbol on here. And over here is all the rest of the things. My cyberware, which is basically equipment. My characters, which are basically creatures for Magic. And there's also certain types of spell cards that you can utilize, like Program Drug. Target creature gets +4/+4. There's also a unique aspect of the game with rolling dice, which I didn't talk about. Dice are not typically rolled, but there are certain cases where they will be. For instance, there's a thing called Psychosis in this deck that says, oh, your creature gains Psychosis, and whenever they do literally anything, you'll roll a die here. And if you roll a number under this number, you'll suffer damage equal to your creature's attack. So there's kind of penalties for benefits, and then there's penalties for penalties if your opponent plays Psychosis on your own creature. Psychosis is typically not a good thing, but the effects that you might gain from gaining Psychosis are. So there is a light dice rolling aspect to the game, but it is a kind of, you have the autonomy to utilize it or not, and so I don't consider there to be any real luck involved in these type of cards, because you don't have to play them. They're kind of like coin flipping in Magic the Gathering, or in like Hearthstone, a random creature is dealt damage. It's the same aspect as that. And that's pretty much like, that's the full feeling of the game that I get. So do I like Neuroscape? Yes. Neuroscape is really fun. It has a lot of key features I enjoy about Magic the Gathering, kind of little additional things attached to it that function from other card games, like the environment, or kind of adding the bonus unique enchantment that doesn't ever leave, similar to like a commander for the commander version of Magic. And how you play your creature that is different as well. So yes, playing out a ton of RAM, you might start to feel like you have a lot of RAM on the field, but you'll start having to commit RAM out onto your main field, and you'll start to realize that you have less RAM to utilize for spells now that you've played out your RAM for creatures. And so there's kind of a balancing act that you get to feel like you have some autonomy over. You get to choose. Do you want to just go all out on RAM and play whatever it is in your hand that you start with, or are you going to dig into your deck and have littler resources to utilize and hoping that your creatures will kind of provide you benefit? And there are creatures that will give you the ability to place more RAM out, usually running. There are creatures that will allow you to draw from your cyber deck, and you get the option of how you choose to do that. You're never going to be RAM screwed in this game, in the sense that you'll always get the option, but you will be RAM screwed, because there are going to be cases where you have cards in your hand and you cannot play them. You're going to have to wait until you get more RAM, but you never feel like you didn't ever have the option, so you have that choice. And in games like this, the more autonomy, the more choice you have, the less random it feels, the better. And in that sense, it's better than Magic in that case. I really, really enjoy the aspect of I have the options to choose, but it still feels like I never have enough of anything, and I always want more value. And so it comes in really tight there. The creatures are fun, they're straightforward, they play like other card games. If you've played one TCG, then you have an idea of how to play this game as well. It'd be a quick learn. It's very, very simple in nature as far as how damage works, and the unique double health pool will come in an interesting combination of ways when more stuff is out. Right now, the health pool is irrelevant. You're playing with red damage, I'm playing with blue. We're just trying to get each other to 0 HP. And when it comes to blocking and taking damage with red and blue, it doesn't matter. It's damage is damage, except when it hits a player, then it's specific to the type of damage that it is. But for the base decks, it's not relevant, really. But I feel like it provides more opportunity for the designers and developers to kind of add value. Mainframes is another way to add value, to make you feel like you have autonomy in your decks. Maybe there'll be certain ones that allow you to play with multiple different types, as opposed to this being cybernetic and this over here being hackers. Maybe there'll be a cybernetic hacker, or maybe there'll be 3 different modes or 4 different modes to a mainframe card based on the power level of it. This is a common. So it is a common mainframe. Maybe there'll be some type of powerful, rare or mythic or super ultimate whatever card that is going to come out with it. You know, they all have unique rarities in these games. And then of course there's rarities in your deck. There are cards that are foil and rare, etc., etc. So there will be a wide variety of cards that you can pull from in your deck, and how you can customize your deck as well to make it stronger, just like any other TCG. And just like any other TCG, the player who has the better cards has a little bit of an advantage. Cards are definitely better if they are uncommon compared to common, or rare compared to uncommon. The art, excellent. This game, I guess it started with kind of a AI background, like as they started to fill out the cards and play the game and test it. And then they went into straight artists from each of the different cards that you know, card games that you know and love, like Magic the Gathering and so on and so forth. There's artists from those games. Android Netrunner, wonderful game as well. This has that kind of feel of that game from the art perspective. These are all hand or human-made art, which is excellent. The art is excellent. It looks wonderful. Love the design, love the feel, love the graphic design. Really well done and very easy to understand. As a gamer like myself, who's played many TCGs, this one here is very straightforward. So, easy things to say. Easy things I can say about recommending for Neuroscape. This is the best TCG I have played in the 10 years I have reviewed games on this channel when it comes to a game that is not a big mainstream Yu-Gi-Oh!, Pokemon, Hearthstone, Magic the Gathering, One Piece, etc. This one here was the most fun, it has the most creative aspects to it, and it still feels close to home like other TCGs, adding the designers adding the implements of games they liked, taking away the ones they didn't like, and changing the things that they could change to kind of better the opportunity for autonomy for players. And so this is a game I'd easily stick with. If this game does well, I can see myself purchasing booster boxes and booster packs. And as a player who's got about, I don't know, anywhere between $50,000 to $100,000 in Magic cards, I can tell you that this game is really well done. The games feel tight. The characters feel fairly balanced. The decks, however, are maybe a little bit, maybe one's more powerful than the other, but that has to do with the cards and being able to change the deck and whatnot. But when playing out certain things, it feels really fluid. The style of mechanic is great. The simplicity of the rules is great. All the keywords make sense, and the artwork is fantastic. The design of the cards is fantastic. I love the cyberpunk style artwork. The mats are easy to understand, and it all works very well. If you're looking for a new TCG that does away with mana screw, that allows more autonomy, that has the unique aspect of locations and kind of a commander aspect to it that still plays that 1v1, or of course it also plays 4 players in a figure 8 type style, which I haven't played yet, then you can check out the game Neuroscape. I'm going to highly recommend this game. This is, like I said, #1 of all the games I've reviewed so far on this channel as far as what it does right. I'm really looking forward to seeing what they create in the future because I see a lot of design possibilities and changes to the strategy that can be added to this game. And so it's all fingers crossed from here. Will they exceed and hit the point where they're able to kind of get to that flesh and blood type level? We'll see, right? Is it going to be a standard, a long-standing game? So I've seen other TCGs that I did really like. I thought they were really good. Not as good as this one, to be fair, but they never hit past the basic Kickstarter thing. And for a game like this to really succeed with all the money and effort into the artwork and style and design, and I'm sure they've got lots of things lined up in the future, it has to really explode, hit store shelves, and sell hard. I'm recommending that you do that. I'm recommending that you do pick this up if you like TCGs. You want something a little different than Magic and a little tired of Mana Screw, want something a little different than Pokemon, so it adds a little bit more elements to the design of the game. The Neuroscape is going to be a safe bet for you. It's going to be an enjoyable game. And yes, maybe you're not going to like the design of any of the specific decks that you get, but the customization and the advantages of customization in this game are tremendous. And it is going to have long-standing potential as long as it really hits the mark here in getting players interested and keeping up the hype, putting that money into marketing dollars. A lot of things that are very challenging. What is the history for Neuroscape? I don't know, but I'm hoping it's good. Thank you guys for watching another Unfiltered Gamer board game review for the game Neuroscape. If you're interested in picking up this game, there is currently a link down below that is on Kickstarter. The game has funded and it is doing quite well, especially for a TCG. Is doing exceptionally well. And I think that just goes to show the type of game that this is. I am looking forward to seeing more product of theirs, and if I do get more product in the future, I will cover it, maybe make my own customized decks to give you an idea of how customization feels as far as this game goes. I've played a lot of card games, customized a lot of decks, and so far nothing has beat Magic the Gathering for me, but to be fair, I haven't experienced the actual customization of Neuroscape yet, but I am looking forward to it. If you like this video, you can go ahead and hit the link in the description, check out the game, or you can go ahead and like the video, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. We have a live stream every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. PST where we actually sat down and played Neuroscape. with 2 seasoned players of Magic the Gathering, as well as 2 players who joined us for the experience that had never played a TCG before. And you can see the experience from all 4 of us and determine maybe if it's something right for you. There's also other great playthrough videos on the Kickstarter right now, even better quality than ours. Ours had a few hiccups at the very beginning, but I think either way, you should go ahead and take a look at Neuroscape. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, I look forward to delving into the cyberscape with you next time.